This is Katie with Homeschool Chat, and today we're going to talk about homeschooling while living on a farm. So this is a different category that I believe that I need to address. So let's get started. When you are homeschooling on a farm, there's some things as the teacher, as the homeschool parent, that you need to be aware of. You need to find classes that have flexible hours. So there's so many different ways to homeschool. There's co-ops, there are online classes, there are special schools. There's homeschooling the traditional way where you buy a curriculum and you do it at home. That's my preferred way. I was a farm kid. So it's very important that you have flexible hours because your children are a member of your household. And because of that, as you know, they're involved in everything that you are. They're involved in the farm. They have chores to do. At harvest time, they have to help. If you have animals, there's birthing times. If you have sheep, it's lambing time. If you have, it could be farrowing time or foaling time, whatever your animal is that you raise. There's also branding time. There's planting times, and things happen that cause farm children to be needed right away, like impromptu moments, like the cows are out or the fence is broken. The fence line is broken, you need to fix it. Or there's a busted sprinkler, we have to fix it now. Maybe the farm truck breaks down and you have a child that is the one that gets to help fix it. So because of all of that, you need to be aware that you need flexible hours as a homeschool parent, and you need to be okay with that. There are a lot of homeschool parents that they really want to do a very good job, and so they want to have the farm life and they want to have a very strict homeschool regimen, whether it's doing their own curriculum or an online school or whatever, where they don't want the child to be interrupted. But in a farm setting, that's just not very realistic. And so as a homeschool parent, you shouldn't be hard on yourself if you're interrupting your child. And you need to be aware that that's just one of the requirements for homeschooling on the farm. Now, a question may come up of how many subjects. How many subjects do I teach? Well, of course, in traditional class, there's about 6 subjects per day. When you have a homeschool farm life, you might consider having less classes. Now, it's my understanding that children still do this. I think it's homeschool parents still do this. And the children actually are assigned this, and that is completing the homeschool log. What that does is it lists out what your child does. For instance, let's say that your homeschool child spends 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. doing math, and then they have a break, and then they spend 10 to 11 a.m. I'm just making this up. 10 to 11 a.m. doing English. They would write those times and what they did in a homeschool log. And that is because it's set up like that so that if you ever got audited in any way, or if there was ever a question that you didn't homeschool your children enough, that homeschool log is proof that yes, my child did this, my child did this other thing, and it all equals out. Let's see, there are an average of 180 days of school. In some places, I know that's actually kind of a homeschool law. You have to have 180 days of school. You can keep a homeschool log all throughout the year, even if you do take summers off, and log in things that your child does that is applicable to a school class. And I'll give you some examples. Let's see. If you have a child that helps to fix a truck, then it's basically auto mechanics. That's a science class. You can log it. Now, you may not put that on your report card or your transcripts, but it's proof that that child spent, let's say 3 hours participating in auto mechanics. That's a science. That is schooling. Some other examples are horseback riding. If you have a horse and you're very involved in their upbringing, or maybe your rodeo family, you're going to be spending some time riding. That horseback riding can be logged into a logbook as PE and possibly something else. You should look into that kind of a thing and see what, see if you want it as a PE credit, I guess you'd say. It's not really a credit. For you to have a credit in it, you would have to do it all year long, and then at the end of the year, for about an average of an hour a day, and then at the end of the year, it would be a credit of PE for horseback riding. Anytime there's, I'm going to call it birthing times. In my house, it was lambing season. So during lambing season, if your child is helping to check on the sheep and helping to deliver the lambs, that is a science because it connects to biology.
Mm-hmm.
Also, for those people that have crops, planting and harvesting time is horticulture. And so bear that in mind. You can log this in a logbook. And I really highly recommend that you do keep a logbook, because people question whether homeschoolers get the proper education and what are your homeschoolers doing? Well, guess what? They're doing these things. And not that some, it's none of anybody, it's not your business if it's not an audit, right? But sometimes it's really good to have that. And it's also good for you as a homeschool teacher to be able to look through the logbook and say, yes, my child has been in school. My child, this accounts for something. So I said all of that to come back around to, you might consider having less than 6 subjects. If you put in 6 hours a day, that's what a regular public school does. So look at the logbook and see, does your child put in 6 hours a day? As long as your children get a good education. So the foundations, of course, we know that it's English or language arts, math, reading, writing, science, all of those basic foundational things. If your child has all of those things, then you can arrange it the way that you want. And that's that's the freedom of homeschooling. Let's see if I've forgotten anything. It says that you can insert, I wrote myself some notes. You can insert home economics class or ag class for some of your, maybe your horticulture classes or your harvesting. It can be ag class with farm animals, or with a horticulture type of a thing where you're planting and harvesting. And we went over the PE stuff. So let's talk just very quickly about transcripts. If you have a high school student, your classes are, so in theory, they're about an hour long for 180 days. And at the end of 180 days, then you have a, whoops, credit. At the end of 180 days is 1 credit for that class. When you are working your logbook so that your child's horseback riding equals PE, if there's enough of it, it can equal a credit at the end of the year. If your child helps with auto mechanics, let's say that the farm truck broke down and your child's helping to repair that farm truck, you can put it in your logbook. But if your child doesn't do that, so 180 days equals 180 hours, right? It doesn't have to be exactly 180 days. It has to be about 180 hours. So if, and this also depends on what state you live in. You need to look it up yourself and find out for sure. But what I'm trying to say is, if your child works on auto mechanics for 4 hours, 3 or 4 times a year, it counts on the log as school time. But it doesn't count on the report card or the transcript as a class. So you need to remember that. It does count as school time, but it won't count as a class. There's just not enough hours to prove that it's an entire class. Well, I hope that helped you. I know I talked very specifically about the farm homeschooler, and I know that it needed to be addressed. I hope it helped. Have a blessed day.